Hello, welcome to another Search with Sean and another SEO and AI news episode. We've got so much today, actually, too much. I had to cut so many stories, and I also had to throw a new one in that just came up the last few hours. Well, the last few days, should I say? So, quick introduction to me as usual, and then we'll go on to my co-host, which I'm really excited about. So, obviously, I'm Sean, SEO manager at Macmillan Cancer Support. Been working in SEO for a good several years now, working in digital marketing across all the different areas, paid and whatnot for a good number of years. So yeah, that's me as usual. Nothing's really changed. And so my guest today, really excited. We've done a show recently, which I'll put in the description. And yeah, I really enjoyed his company. So I asked him if he'll join me today. And so yeah, it's David Sace, and he's currently the digital lead at leading law firm Forsters. He's also a judge for the 2024 Global and European Search Awards. So yeah, welcome, David. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much. No, pleasure to join you. And yeah, it was good to meet you on the previous one as well. As you say, it sounds like it's been a pretty busy week for news.
Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. We'll move on to the stories in a bit, but yeah, we've had to move things around just to get the latest stuff in there. So yeah, as usual, the channel is all around. Well, these shows are all around the latest SEO news, AI news. So if that kind of thing does interest you, we cover a whole range of stories. So it's not just the usual mainstream stories. I try and find a few niche ones as well, and some case studies, some tips and stuff from the experts in the field. So if that interests you, then please do subscribe. We're getting tons of views, but as many YouTubers find, subscribers are hard to come by, so it would help push the channel further. And also just to push, and I will add a link in the description. I recently interviewed Ray Sadiq, who's like really speaks at Brighton SEO, all the major SEO talks, and really knows his stuff around search, especially how search and social media play their parts together. And obviously, we all know about, and we'll move on to, but Reddit, TikTok, they're all coming into action now, YouTube. So yeah, it was a really good talk, and I really recommend watching that. Um, yeah, let's crack on because we've got so much to cover. Um, and yeah, the slides aren't playing ball today, so we'll go back. But yeah, as we usually do, we've done the intros, recap on the last episode, because I really feel like we cover a lot of stories that people may have missed. And last week we did cover some stuff around the future of AI, which was really interesting from some of the industry leaders. The SEO job market, really interesting case studies and reports that have come out around that. Cyrus Shepherd did an SEO experiment that was really interesting. There's different things around country-specific performance. Actually, more stuff has come out about that, which we'll probably cover in future shows. Zero-click search study, which Rand Fishkin did, and there's some stuff around that, and there's much more. So well worth going back and watching that. And I'll put a link somewhere. It'll pop up somewhere. And then coming up on this episode is we got obviously about OpenAI new search engine, new voice developments, Google's scrap plans for third-party cookies that you've probably seen, Reddit blocks Bing, amongst others, and the AI and what they're doing about the environment and that kind of thing. But we have actually got something that's obviously just come into the news in the last few days. So there will be reading as usual, and I'll get David's take on it afterwards. And obviously all the links that I find the information from will be found in the description. So if I don't explain it well enough, or you want to learn more, or I talk too fast or whatever, then please just head to the description and read it for yourself. So yeah, basically, a US judge has ruled Google acted illegally to crush its competition and maintain a monopoly on online search and related advertising. Google was sued by the US Department of Justice in 2020 over its control of 90% of the online search market. It is one of several lawsuits that is being filed against the big tech companies as US antitrust authorities attempt to strengthen competition in the industry. It's unclear yet what penalties Google and Alphabet will face as a result of the decision. The fines or other remedies will be decided in a future hearing. The government has asked for structural relief, which could, in theory at least, mean the breakup of the company. In his decision, US District Judge Amit Mehta said Google has paid billions to ensure it's the default search engine on smartphones and browsers. And US Attorney General Merrick Garland, the country's top prosecutor, hailed the ruling as a historic win for the American people. No company, no matter how large or influential, is above the law, said Mr. Garland in a statement on Monday. So, I mean, if anyone works in search, I don't think anyone's really surprised by this outcome. Um,
No,
but yeah, David, what's your first takes on?
it's it surprised me in a way. It's been a long time coming. Google, in my view, it has held a monopoly, whether they like it or not. Um, there are other options out there. Bing, DuckDuckGo. There's a whole load out there, and for some countries, yes, they have their own search, which actually isn't Google. Um, I think for me, it's how the layperson uses a search engine. And the one thing with this was about Google being the default search engine, especially on iOS devices. Google actually pays Apple about $20 billion to have that default on the iOS devices. And I really wonder how many people understand that that is a default, that there are options, or how to even change the options there. So I really think that they are kind of locked down to using Google. Um, I think this something similar happened with Microsoft Explorer years ago, where they were all new computers being sold. The default browser was, I think, the Microsoft version, and they had to sort of decouple it and make sure there was an icon on the screen that gave you an option. But yeah, I think this is really quite interesting. I think as well it comes at a difficult time for Google, with the likes of the possibility of Search GPT coming in and taking a fair chunk of market share. I think how people use search as well. I mean, I'm hearing a lot more about people going straight to YouTube for search. Again, it's Google, or TikTok, and finding searches through these other methods as well. Um, I've got to say, to some extent, it hasn't come as a huge surprise. What will be interesting is what actually happens next, and what they're going to do to break up this proposed monopoly that Google has.
Yeah, I mean, I think Google have replied, and it was a pretty confusing reply, I would say. And I didn't have time to add it in here, but I will put it in the description, link to it. Um, I guess what they could say is that Microsoft could have paid more to be the default search engine, if they wanted to, and they are the best search engine. That's what they would say. So they deserve to have the monopoly, and no one's come along and really been able to compete with them. Yeah, I
I
think
think,
anything in life with a monopoly is not good for the public.
yeah,
You know,
but I really do think for the regular user to go onto their iPhone, iPad, and to say them, okay, do a search with something other than Google. I think a lot of people would probably struggle knowing it was an option, finding it in the settings, and changing it. I'd be interested to know how many Google searches on iOS devices are for other search engines. Um, but yeah, I sometimes think some of these firms they don't really think about a lot of their end user. They think about often younger people, tech people in tech. It's much like the ads at the top of Google. Um, I know a lot of people that I've spoken to over the years that didn't realize that those first two, three, four, God, these days probably five or six ads there. I mean, they're marked as ad, they're marked as sponsor, but people don't know necessarily what that means. And I think a bit more transparency from Google would be good.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think the one thing that did concern me out of all this court case, of this specific one, because there's quite a few going on, but the stuff about the paid advertising and how they've kind of rigged the system there, that's more of a concern for me. Just
Yeah.
how they've been doing those sort of things, that's very underhand and a sort of, yeah, it's not really how you should be doing it, being carrying out. And it's kind of, it's not fair on businesses and people that are paying their hard earned money onto paying ads on Google. It's not the way they should be doing it. So that was more concerning for me. The search stuff,
Yeah.
I yeah, I wasn't surprised at all.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, at least the one being transparency. Google's old motto of "Don't be evil." Um, I looked it up recently. They dropped that back in 2018. So yeah, that speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, that's a good point. And on that bombshell, we'll move on to the next. So yeah, the next one is
Oh
funny enough, something that could disturb the market, and this was based off obviously OpenAI said they've got the plans to launch their own search engine, which was obviously in the making for a while. But what was interesting is Chris Long, who I've mentioned on this show a few times, and I recommend you follow him for really great videos and stuff on LinkedIn. And basically, he got early access to the search engine and described a few of the factors around it. And here's some of the things that he found. So Search GPT uses an extremely simple interface. There's 3 columns: navigational, links, information, and you get more of the key information above the fold content. For now, there's no ads. It's much more friendly at giving citations than Google's AI overviews. The left-hand sidebar will always generate external citations. It's also extremely common to see 5+ citations in the content itself. There are searches where 1 or 2 citations completely dominate the result. Search GPT will localize results similar to Google. When typing in something like restaurants near me, you'll see results in your area without having to define a location. Search GPT seems to be much better at giving correct answers and avoiding hallucinations than Google's AI overviews. We tested search queries that tricked Google before, and Search GPT gave correct answers. So yeah, it's obviously this is needed, and not really a surprise because they have said it recently that it's something in the works. I guess people may have not thought they've rolled it out as quick as they have,
yeah,
but yeah, I think with the emergence of ChatGPT five around the corner, then they're kind of, yeah, the ball is rolling really quickly, and they've kind of decided that with Google perhaps on its knees, it's the best time to enter the market.
yeah. I think Google hasn't had the best of times. I mean, with with the AI overviews that they launched, that pretty much in the first few hours got quite shredded. Gluing pepperoni to pizza and eating rocks, and people had good fun with that. Um, I do think, I mean, with ChatGPT in their own search, I know a lot of people again that actually use ChatGPT to search queries. Now, the worry with that is that, it's limited to, I think, probably the beginning of the year, end of last year on its current data set. That will no doubt change. Um, but yeah, it's giving people, and this goes, it gives people what they want quickly, which is what Google always said it was trying to do. Um, it's going to be interesting when this is launched, what happens. Um, and again, whether the majority of regular users understand the difference between Google and this new search engine and what happens next. But it's going to be interesting. I think, I'm seeing Google AI overviews coming up more and more here in the UK on mobile devices for search, and it's interesting seeing what it's coming up with. Um, at a talk recently, we discussed how you need to get your website ready for this, and I think the citations are the key point. Um, the data that it's giving, the idea is that that pretty much gives you everything that you're looking for, but you want to check that. Um, so this is where a good quality website will help, especially with the ranking side of things. It's going to be interesting to see the impact of SEO with this as well. Um, Chances are it's going to be very similar to Google. It's going to be somewhat of the basics of know your audience, know your topic, and say stuff with some intelligence and authority. But we'll wait and see. I
Yeah, I
haven't had
mean,
a beat. I haven't had a beta test of it yet.
if I would love to, but I feel for me personally, I feel that in the short term, Google will continue to be the dominant force because that is people's behaviors, as you say. That is how
Yeah,
they've. I'll Google it. I'll go on Google, and for now, they are the default search engine. Um, and so I can't see people's behaviors changing too much. The only way I see it changing is if in the courts they're forced to kind of break up some of um, their dominance and some of the things they have in place, and that opens the door for people like OpenAI to kind of take their place. I
yeah,
don't feel like right now, unless they're forced to do something differently, it's going to change the market and people's behaviors. But as we know, people's behaviors are changing, um, just naturally. People, like you say, are going to different places. And I discussed with Ray on our chat was people are going first phase, going to TikTok, going to
yeah,
YouTube, going to Instagram to find out things, and like to TikTok are spending a lot of money on making that point that they are somewhere to search for things. I've seen it on the billboards and I've seen it on the TV adverts. Um, so yeah, the only thing that concerns me about OpenAI is because you read stuff about the amount of money it's costing them to just keep
yeah.
um, ChatGPT going. Then obviously launch a search engine that's more cost. There will have to be ads. So we have to see how that play comes into it. And will they be able to keep it going if, like, for example, they're just another Bing and they've got 5%, 4%
Yeah.
of the market. Um, you know, be interesting.
I think it's fascinating at the moment. Two of the key topics being spoken of are ESG, sustainability, and AI, and they're pretty much head to head against each other for how we use energy.
Yeah, we will go on to that, but yeah, it's an interesting kind of, obviously what they say is, yeah, in the short term costs will be high, but in the long term it will effectively help us resolve the issue. Um, but yeah, we will get onto that. But yeah, obviously this will be one we'll keep developments on, and if I get some uh, access to it, I may do a video and just actually show it and see, have a look around. But we'll see if I have applied, so we'll see. So on to the next story. So obviously, voice is something that a lot more people are using. I've started using the app Pi, and it's amazing. Actually, I really couldn't believe. I mean, it's only using Claude 3.5, which isn't a very advanced model, but it's exceptional how it felt so personal talking to this AI personal assistant. Even when they're talking, they say things like and ah, which okay, is like in human, like when we speak, that's kind of a mistake, but it felt more personal because they were doing those sort of things, instead of being totally accurate like a robot you would expect. It was doing those sort of and ahs, and it just felt really personal. So yeah,
You
voice
know,
going to be
some of that is due to the AI response speed. I read an article that it's not only to make it sound more human, but it gives it those extra few milliseconds to compute the data and respond. So it works well from both sides.
100%. I think that's what we do, isn't it? We say
Yeah.
as our minds are ticking away to try and find the next word to say. So yeah, it's interesting. So the first story, and like I say, all the links will be in the description. But the first story is around OpenAI, and they've said they're starting to roll out more advanced voice mode to a small group of ChatGPT Plus users. And advanced voice mode offers a more natural, real-time conversations, allowing you to interrupt anytime and senses and respond to your emotions. They said that we'll continue to add more people on a rolling basis and plan for everyone on Plus to have access in the fall. As previously mentioned, video and screen sharing capabilities will launch later
Mm,
on a later date. So that'd be awesome, actually. Like screen sharing capabilities, it
yeah.
would be interesting.
I think it is fascinating. I mean, I know currently I go out, I walk the dog. Often I'll put my earbuds in and talk through stuff with ChatGPT, and it really is quite impressive the very natural conversation you can have with an AI. Um, and it's interesting how it picks up stuff in the background too. I know there was one time walking the dog, I mentioned I'd called another dog that was a friend of mine's, and instantly the conversation changed to, "Oh, it sounds like you're walking the dog," which was quite unnerving. But yeah, I think OpenAI, they demoed some of the stuff where it was, "What's this that I'm showing you?" and some of the stuff coming in probably with ChatGPT 5, I guess. But yeah, that's going to really open things up.
Yeah, I
But
like the
yeah,
fact that, um, I mean, Google in their keynote event that happened recently, they said about they are going to have this feature where you can say, look, there's two experts in a certain topic talking to each other about whatever you say. It could be about quantum mechanics, it could be about SEO, it could be about anything. And they're talking as if they're just having a conversation about it. And then you can interrupt and, get involved in the conversation, ask questions, and they will respond accordingly, like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, Sean.
yeah,
This is my take on it. And it looks like OpenAI are going in that sort of on that sort of path as well.
that's going to be really interesting. I think just that natural back and forth is going to make the usability of it a lot better. I still have concerns around data and privacy and areas like that. Um, but I think people just have to try and be sensible. I haven't heard of any major data breaches yet, but no doubt somebody will do something stupid and it will come out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are deep fakes and the voice recognition stuff, and yeah, I mean, all that is an issue, I guess. What we always say with AI and that kind of thing is that it's how we use it. If we use it in the right way, we train it in the right way, it can change the world in such a good place and put it in such a good place. But obviously, if it gets in the wrong hands and it's mistreated like anything else, it can turn into something quite toxic, which obviously we've
Yes.
seen on the internet. The internet does good in terms of
Yeah.
communicating the world and sharing information and helping us do things like this and other podcasts and education around things. But obviously, it has a lot of toxic stuff on it as well. Um, and we've let it get to that because we didn't regulate it too
Yeah.
soon enough, probably. So, say with AI, we need to put the regulations in place. But yeah, I was listening to I'll drop it in here actually in the description, because Joe Rogan, and he was interviewing Annie Jacobson, who was really just, she does some good stuff on, it's around war and stuff, but obviously AI is a big part of what's going on in the world now, as we know, and just discussing about perhaps in future that AI could um, govern everyone basically,
Yeah,
because it doesn't have that sort of sense of the kind of emotions that humans have, and the kind of biases that we have, and the sort of different things that make humans sometimes, you know, we make mistakes, and kind of put our own bias opinions forward, or the kind of different emotions like anger and stuff, and the AI won't have that. So,
yeah.
well, at least initially, whether they get to that stage, then who knows. So,
Oh, it will at some point. I think
yeah.
just looking at the graphic on the screen there, it just makes me think, for so many years we've been talking about voice search. For, I don't know, 7, 8 years, maybe more, I have seen, those new year, what's in store for SEO this year, voice search time and time again, and it was looking at things like the Alexa units. Um, I think this is actually when voice search comes in. This is the mechanism that is required to make it something that is usable and useful.
No,
And
100%. And
as long as it can return the right data, which it seems to be doing a pretty good job of. Yeah, if I was Google, I'd be getting more and more worried about this.
no, I agree. Actually, I think the thing that accelerated it was COVID. I think um, when people were at home, and obviously we had to do more things like Zoom and Teams and stuff like that. People got used to using different sort of online tools and stuff, and then things like the voice, and obviously they've been built into more sort of Google search and into different apps and stuff, and there's games and stuff like that, and they all use kind of voice on it. So I think it's just been accelerated by obviously the rise of technology, and things like COVID, where we're stuck in our house and
Yeah.
not much to do. And on that note, and actually it was Ray Leak who brought this to my attention, and I thought it was a really interesting story. So basically, there's a new wearable AI uh, sort of thing that you could put around your neck, and it's called the Friend. And so the Friend is an AI wearable. It's a pal, a buddy, but mostly an AI chatbot that lives inside a pendant.
Your
Sorry.
best friend.
Yeah, it always has an opinion to share about what's going on, um, which it communicates using text messages and push notifications on the phone it's paired to. The Friend has an onboard microphone that listens to everything happening about around you. The wearable, so you can tap on it and hold it to ask it a question, but sometimes it'll send messages, commentary about conversations you just had, for example, unprompted. It is powered by Anthropic AI's Claude 3.5 large language model, which can engage in helpful conversation, offering encouragement or review for being bad at a video game. The Friend gets around 15 hours of battery life, and comes in an array of colors that looks almost exactly like the color palette of the first Apple iMac computer. The Friend is available for pre-order now from Fred.com. And the person who created this, Schifferman, he said he paid 1.8 million for the domain Friend.com.
Oh,
Um,
I wish him the best of luck with this then.
and the device are starting to be shipped in January 2025, and they cost about $99. There's no paid subscription at the moment. So yeah, I mean,
So
obviously this is the future, I guess, in terms of
I
having
think
these
it's
sort of.
interesting because it's not too far after humane AI, and that was the clip on. And I remember seeing early videos of that and thinking this is really quite interesting. It had the screen that would appear on your hand in front of you and everything. Um, I don't think I've seen anything hyped up so much and then bomb as bad as that did since probably the original Segway came out in early 2000s. Um, this seems like a much better application of something similar. And you did send me the promo video for it, and I found it really interesting. Um, I think it's a fascinating the way it was responding as well. It was very natural. It didn't feel like it was too programmed. It felt like it was getting a sense of what was happening and could adjust to the situation. The only thing is, I don't know if you watch Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just part of it does scare the life out of me. Some of the episodes on Black Mirror, similar sort of things. I'm starting to think now I may have to go back and watch the first few seasons of Black Mirror because I think it's foretelling a lot of what's going to be happening with AI. Um, but no, I think also the price point for this is really good. It's going to be interesting to see how it takes off.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the worry is, well, there's a few concerns. I think when I talk to my partner about it, she says, she don't feel comfortable that people are listening to her and that kind of thing. I think obviously devices doing that already.
Yeah,
So, without our permission as such, well, we probably do give,
we're quickly
probably
giving
don't
up
read
all
it.
of our freedoms.
Yeah. And then obviously, I guess, yeah, it's do we want people to be replacing human friends with AI friends?
I
Do we
think,
want our kids to be
yeah,
just relying on AI
I
all the
think
time?
there's certain use cases where I've seen the robots in Japan, um, in elderly care homes, and I think there's good user case there. But yes, it does worry me that again, much like many a dystopian sci-fi film, it becomes somebody's best friend. Um, the privacy side, I mean, from one thing I did read was, um, so first of all, it does need to connect to Claude to review the conversation, to feedback. The time it takes to do that needs to be quick because I think Humane and Rabbit, the other one, there was quite a lag and it needs to be quick. The other one was apart from the data going from device to servers and back, which is encrypted, I'll take their word for it. If you do lose or if you do destroy the device or lose the device, a lot of the information goes with it. So there isn't any backup there as well, which is another interesting thing. But yeah, I'd recommend anyone to watch the promo video because it's well done. I've got to say. I think there was even one moment towards the end of the video where they didn't use it because it was a more private moment, and I thought that was a nice inclusion in the video.
Yeah, no, it is really good, and obviously it will be in the description. And it does interest me to a degree because when I use Pi now, which I think is using the same model, it is really great actually. And if you have conversation and with it, and it does feel quite natural. Like you say, the lag time is a bit. Sometimes it's thinking for quite a while, but then I guess you can talk to people and they can think for a while before they reply. So I guess you have to think about it from that perspective. But yeah, it just can. The concern is that if AI gives you this character, this persona that agrees with and is interested in everything you are, that
Yeah,
you're interested, then why would you want to talk to human beings that you could perhaps disagree with all the time? That's potentially where the future is because AI will, you know, be potentially interested in every single thing you are. Um, and where you guys are humans, you may have one thing you have in common, but you may disagree with a lot of stuff. So
I'll
yeah,
tell you what, there's an idea for a new product, an AI pendant that disagrees with you or acts like your mother and tells you to sort yourself out. I like the sound of that. I think that we'll talk offline about that. Yeah.
I think I had enough with the baggage areas in
Oh,
the shopping centres. They're enough for me. I think. The final part of this slide is that, and I'll put the link in the description, is ChatGPT now have a desktop app for Mac OS, and it's available to all users. So I just want to throw it in. And also Claude have an Android app, which you can download now, which is free to use. So yeah, that's really, I use that for like research purposes. It's really good.
yeah.
I
I've
feel
got to
like I push you
say,
quite a lot, but I do think it's quite good.
I think I have the ChatGPT on my Mac here, um, and I think there's so many uses. I mean, I think still one of my favorite uses is um, regex. Doing regex commands for search engine console, things like that. It is great for little things like that, little bits of programming. Um, I think, I mean, going back to the original talk that we had about AI overviews, using it just to pump out content is still not the way to do it. It's still very much about the research, the ideas, the format, and then you need to bring it to life. Um, but then again, ChatGPT 5, maybe it's going to do all that for us too.
Yeah, I mean they say it's going to be 2-3 steps up from ChatGPT 4, so
Yeah.
it could be extremely advanced. So yeah, it just another push. You enjoy this kind of content, these kind of discussions, please subscribe to the channel. It really does help. So yeah, I just want to say that again. And then so
Like,
story
subscribe,
two,
and hit the bell.
yeah, that's the one. And so the next story is something that has been making the headlines as well. Some were surprised, some wasn't. So yeah, Google won't now be depreciating third-party cookies after years of promising to do so. Google is reversing course and won't phase out third-party cookies in Chrome as previously planned. Instead, they are opting for a new approach that gives users more control. Google will introduce a new experience in Chrome that will allow users to make informed choices about their web browsing privacy. The Privacy Sandbox APIs will continue to be developed and made available as alternatives. This move suggests Google is trying to balance privacy concerns with the needs of the ad industry and its own business model. This decision marks a significant shift in Google's privacy policy, and will come as a relief to many in the advertising industry who have been scrambling to prepare for a cookieless future. And I kept seeing these, things about and I was thinking, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think their
Yeah.
business model, it suited their business model. The Yeah, I just couldn't see it going through, and it obviously isn't now. And I think but the what they've decided to do is probably the right approach, and they should have done it in the first place. But yeah, do you have any views?
Well, no, I think it's that tricky balance of, with best intentions, we need to see how users are coming through the website. We want to make the experience as good as possible for them. We need to know they've come through these ads and we can serve them these ads that will benefit them, um, against the privacy side of it, and how comfortable people are about being served up an ad for another pair of trainers because they happen to look at a similar brand 2 weeks ago. Um, it's a tricky one to find the balance. Again, I think need to be careful with how much is pushed back to the user. I mean, there was mention there about a setting in Chrome, and much like we talked about earlier, I think you almost have to assume that most people are not going to touch the settings. Um, so there needs to be some sort of clear mechanism so users are actually aware. Um, but yeah, I know from my side, I was talking to somebody recently who they installed the oh god, the little cookie policy consent form on a website that hadn't done it, and watched as 85% of their analytics just disappeared. Um, so it is tricky. It really is. Um, I'd like to find a solution that is totally private but still gives information to the site owners. But we'll just have to see what Google comes up with. My worry, as with everything Google at the moment, is if they don't come up with something pretty solid soon, I'm sure there are plenty of other people that will look at options on how they can work around this or with this.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are alternative search engines that you can use, like DuckDuckGo, that you can avoid that sort of these sort of things. I guess some people say that, well, if you use the internet, um, you know the risks. Risk versus reward. The rewards are you get a whole bunch of information at your fingertips. The risks are that some of your personal data will be used.
Yeah,
For me, I'm not really that fussed, but I get when actually I would prefer to have personalized ads because it's something I'm interested in. But
yeah,
but then again, there's so many things that are surveilling us now. From like we did the stories last week about um, cameras, AI cameras up in train stations now, and there's been stuff at the Olympics, and um, everywhere you go in your car, there's a camera pointing at you, taking all your information, and so there's a lot of it around, and it is quite daunting when you feel like, what don't they know about you more about what they do know
yeah.
about you? But I guess if yeah, it's personal opinions, and obviously there are other options, but whether people are educated around those other options, like you say, that's the problem. I don't think most people would know about options like DuckDuckGo and
No,
ad blockers and other things like that. I don't think they're even educated on they
I
exist.
think a lot of users they literally boot up their computer. If Google is their default home screen, that's their search engine of choice. They may go as far as when you get the little notifications of, do you want to block notifications and that sort of stuff. They may click yes, block that. But for the most part, as I say, it's people just dive in and freely put all sorts of information in there.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
know my sorry, go on.
no, I was just saying it's really is quite fascinating, um, and somewhat, yeah, concerning that Google scraps this so late in the day, because it was being touted as, watch out, here it comes for some time.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with, well, one, I was going to say, like my dad, for example, he's been scammed numerous times because he just accepts everything, and
Yeah,
you just, so that kind of thing, especially older generations, they don't really understand all this sort of, all these different things that are coming up. And then, secondly, what's worrying me is just, yeah, not so much the decisions Google are making, it's the way they're doing it. It's not so much and that's the same with anything with governments or anything. It's not so much of making um in the end they get to the right decision maybe, but it's the way they've got there is
yeah.
more concerning. um and yeah, it's, I feel for them as well, because I do feel like even like the mass media that never used to get involved in these kind of search stories are getting involved now, like New York Times and that kind of thing. So I do kind of feel sorry for them, but because they obviously make our life a lot easier, and
Yeah,
we wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't be in a job without them, really. So I have to be grateful for
that's a
them.
good point. Yes.
But yeah, it's obviously they need to kind of get their house in order. It seems. Um, so on the next onto the next one, and this was really interesting actually, around Reddit blocking. They blocked Bing and a few others. So um, this is from, again, all the links in the description, but it's from Alida Solis, who obviously is great, and we mentioned most weeks. And she was sharing about Reddit's spokesperson on blocking Bing search, and they said, this is not at all related to our recent partnership with Google. We have been in discussions with multiple search engines. We have been unable to reach agreements with all of them, since some of them are unable or are willing to make enforceable promises regarding their use of Reddit content, including their use for AI, and that was via Barry Schwartz as well. And then on The Verge, which is obviously a tech based website, it's quite good. I recommend subscribing to their email updates. And Reddit CEO says Microsoft needs to pay to search the site. After striking deals with Google and OpenAI, Reddit CEO Steve Huffman is calling on Microsoft and others to pay if they want to continue scraping the site's data. And he said, without these agreements, we do not have any say or knowledge of how our data is being displayed and what it's used for, which has put us in a position now of blocking folks who haven't been willing to come to terms with how we'd like our data to be used or not used. And he has specifically named Microsoft, Anthropic, and Perplexity for refusing to negotiate. And he said that Microsoft has been using Reddit's data, to train its AI and summarizing its content in Bing results without telling us, and that Reddit's data has been sold through Bing's API to other search engines. In an interview, he referenced Microsoft AI CEO Mustafa Suleyman recent comments at a conference that public data on the internet is freeware. We've had Microsoft, Anthropic, and Perplexity act, act as though all of the content on the internet is free for them to use. Huffman said that's their real position. And we did discuss that last week, actually, about CEOs Mustafa Suleyman, his remarks, and obviously Alida Solis did get quite angry about
Yeah.
that, saying that it's just free to use in any way they want without referencing or um, citation or anything like that. So I get where Reddit is coming from, but then again, it could become a quite dangerous place on the internet, that it's all these little agreements between different
Yeah.
publishers and social media platforms. And what the point of the internet was to be is that all these things are connected, and there's no real kind of, it's quite a, well, ideally it would be a kind of neutral place where you can just get factual information from all the different sources in one
No
place.
chance.
Yeah, but there's no chance. And obviously all these little agreements kind of just and the fact that Reddit said that their growth and this sort of revelations here has nothing to do with their deal with Google is a kind of a,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? I mean, that's obviously not the case. That they've rapidly grown. Something we'll get onto actually before we just chat about it. But Lily Ray recently shared, her team in AMSIF recently shared that the article explored, and I'll put the description. They explored Reddit's significant growth in SEO visibility, showing a 1,328% increase from July 2023 to April 2024. This surge is attributed to Google's helpful content update, which prioritizes user generated content like Reddit. The analysis reveals that Reddit is now ranked highly in various categories such as gaming, news, and e commerce, replacing traditional editorial sites in the search engine results. The shift reflects a broader trend of forums and community sites gaining prominence in Google search results. So, yeah, it's just interesting what Reddit are doing. What's your take?
It frankly, it worries me. I mean, you said there about, grabbing information out of forums, user generated content. Um, my God, that seems like something that could be very easily gamed. Um, I have concerns about the quality of the data coming through. From a business point of view, it sounds like everyone's after some money, and they're just going to play silly games until they get some. But yeah, it's I don't think it's not a particularly nice thing for the internet. I'll be honest. I mean, as you say there, the idea of the internet being a place where you could find good information um, that was qualified. I do have concerns about what's going to be feeding back into those search results, and especially with personalization, how much is refed to a person and just enforces various ideas. But yeah, this is another one. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Sites blocking AI is one thing. Sites blocking search engines, that's something interesting.
Yeah, and I think what kind of for me, the mainstream media, many people are turning away from mainstream media because it seems that they have certain biases and they have their partnerships with certain,
Yeah,
whether it's government groups or whether it's companies or whether it's sort of industries or whatever. So I think when what's great is on the internet you didn't really have that sort of thing. Obviously, when you go away from sort of some websites that are represented from the mainstream media, some of them you would go to kind of Google and you could find sort of different resources that you could find information. But if those same resources are now only taking their information from a group of different sites, then that really does limit that sort of whole
yeah,
what they're putting out there. It's limiting what the information they're giving out, and it's not reflective of all the different viewpoints that you could be getting. And as you say, just generally Reddit's, and I've said this on other videos, but I do feel like I would personally rather have an industry leader who's got real case studies and experts talking about a certain topic than someone just in a forum or chat room discussing their. I mean, I'm not saying that their views isn't valid but you don't know
it's
100%.
going to be mixed.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole range. It's going to be people just making stuff up, so they get a few, they get votes and they get likes and all that sort of follows and stuff, and then there's going to be some real life stuff, which is great. But at least if you pay an expert or you get
Yeah,
someone to talk that their expertise are real, and that's what I would prefer to see on the search results, and not. But then again, we have our forum, and I would like that to get more presence because that is real life people talking about real life cancer situations. But
yeah,
so it can be beneficial. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, and if the other search engines and like Perplexity and stuff actually end up paying to show Reddit results, or they look at alternatives to Reddit to kind of, combat that. And yeah, I think what Reddit have done, if they've taken the situation as kind of played in their hands in the sense that they could do this. It's
yeah,
Google wanted this sort of more, as they said in the sort of sort of personal stories and that kind of thing, through the helpful content update. And they've seen the rise in traffic. They struck the deal with Google, and now they've seen that they can make money at this moment. So they've gone to the others and said, look, we want money for this stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, I think once we've finished here, I'm going to drop Google an email and say, if you want anything off my website, dsace.com, just give me some money and you can go on there.
Nice plug.
See if that works.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Reddit won't be the last
No,
to do that
no.
kind of thing. So on to the next story, and I don't know how many we get through. Hopefully, we get through a couple others. Um,
Oh,
but this is something that's really up in the, a lot of stories around this, and obviously all the links are in the description as usual. But so yeah, obviously AI equals more power, more energy is needed to power all this stuff. And so the first story is around Microsoft and Occidental signed carbon credit deal to help offset AI energy surge. So the tech industry's AI-driven energy demands have caused a significant rise in emissions, with Microsoft's emissions increasing by nearly a third since 2020. Google also reported a nearly 50% rise in emissions since 2019 due to AI infrastructure expansion. This agreement allows Microsoft to pay for the removal and storage of carbon from the atmosphere. That's the first related story, and then onto the next one, and this is in the Guardian. Again, the links will be in the description. And Google's emissions climbed nearly 50% in 5 years due to AI energy demand. The tech company, which has invested substantially in AI, said its extremely ambitious goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2030 won't be easy. It said significant uncertainty around reaching the target included the uncertainty around the future environmental impact of AI, which is complex and difficult to predict. And Microsoft's co-founder Bill Gates said last week that AI would help combat the climate crisis because big tech is seriously willing to pay extra to use clean electricity sources in order to say that they're using green energy. Big tech companies have become major purchasers of renewable energy in a bid to meet their climate goals. However, pledges to reduce CO2 emissions are now coming up against pledges to invest heavily in AI products that require considerable amounts of energy for training and development in data centers, along with carbon emissions associated with manufacturing and transporting the computer servers and chips used in the process. Water usage is also another environmental factor in the AI boom, with one study estimating that AI could account for up to 6.6 billion cubic meters of water used by 2027, nearly two-thirds of England's annual consumption. So, with every with every sort of high, there's always sort of lows that come with it, and I guess what they'll argue is that if we stick with AI, it will answer these issues in the long term, and it will make the world a lot more sustainable. And these, issues around the world with environmental issues and climate issues, that they could come up with the answers and resolve everything. But we're just going to have to pay for it now, and set back our kind of pledges and our targets and stuff. So yeah, obviously a lot of it's in the news, and a lot of people saying the AI bubble is starting to burst because of these rising costs.
oh, they're huge. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
it's
so
interesting. I think Google. I think I saw a few months ago they used to have a carbon zero agreement or something similar, which they've pretty much ditched in favor of chasing AI. Yeah, I think this is a big worry, and I tell you something, I'm not overly comfortable with a lot of these firms paying somebody else to deal with the carbon capture sequestration. Um, I think there needs to be something close to home in how they're doing this. I don't know whether it is possible with some of these AI farms. I mean, you see pictures of the NVIDIA racks of computers doing all the AI stuff. How feasible it is to run those purely on green energy, I don't know, but it's a to have AI come in that is so power hungry, and sustainability, ESG, such a hot topic as well. It's I'm expecting to see more and more clashes of these two topics over time. But as for any short-term answer, I really don't know about that. But as you say, maybe AI will come out with a solution, or maybe it will just take over the world and we shall bow before it. It's
Yeah,
going
I
to be
mean,
one of those
obviously,
two.
it will be, and I think you know, whenever you put sort of these plans into action, what people really want to know is that, okay, well, you hope that AI will come up with the answers in future. That's pretty much what they're saying. So you're going to put all these kind of things potentially at risk, climate change, um, all these environmental damages that could potentially be done, all these, all the water that's going to be used and all that kind of thing, where, the world's at quite a crisis point in time in terms of climate change, and you're hoping that AI will get you the answers in future. That's not
Yeah.
very foolproof in terms of a strategy, is it? So I think that's the only concern from my point of view. I do think the way AI is going, they could probably resolve. You'll be seeing it in the medical industry already, how many things they're resolving.
Yeah.
Um, so they obviously, it has got the capabilities, but it does concern me that there's no real proof that they will come up with these solutions. And obviously from a darker point of view, obviously some people say, well, it might come up that we're the problem with climate change, which
Yeah,
like,
I'd say that would probably be a big yes.
yeah. But it'd be interesting. Obviously, we'll keep watching this. I know that in the UK, I didn't have time to add in here, but they are looking to add more sort of safety bills around AI and stuff. And
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, so that
So
that obviously,
the EU has just brought their law into effect, I think, in the last couple of weeks. And the UK, much like GDPR, um, the UK will be looking at doing their own but very similar version. And that's interesting. That's, I think, the 5 stages of AI. Um, talking about how it can be used, what data it can be used within it, how it gets trained, um, and the sort of responsibilities it has as well. Because I think a lot of people probably don't realize how much AI is used currently behind the scenes. Um, but yeah, whether you want it deciding on, as you say, things within the medical industry, um, at least we need awareness of how it's used and when it's used.
yeah, as you say, I mean, AI has been used for years and
Yeah.
years. I mean, in military and other governmental sort of procedures and stuff, but
Although,
it's only
well,
now it's been used by the public. It's now taken up a lot more resource. So
yeah.
yeah,
And I think the other important thing to remember is this isn't the sentient AI of what is still science fiction. Ultimately, what AI currently is doing is finding the next letter, finding the next word, learning from past experience. So it's still very much a toddler in the world of AI. Whether that computing power will be needed to maintain this as AI grows, that's a whole other question.
yeah, and I think what they're hoping is that AI itself will come up with the answers to be able to, yeah, how it can work itself without having to use so much energy. And I think they believe that it will come up with those answers. So
Yeah.
they're kind of taking that risk and putting that money into it. So I think we could do one more story and
Yeah.
then we wrap up. But there's so much, and we probably missed like about 15
Oh,
stories. But
there's
uh,
probably 5 new ones since we've been doing this.
Yeah, exactly. But I will either share them on my LinkedIn, so make sure you follow me on there, or I will cover them in the next episode if they're still relevant. But obviously, I do try and share some of them on LinkedIn that we don't always get through. The third, the kind of last story we get through, I guess, but the first on other news is a video I watched actually, and again, the link could be in the description, from Mary Haynes, and she was on the Bright Local podcast, which was really good, and it's just talking about the future of AI and search. And I just picked out a few points from the video because I thought it was actually really good, and obviously Mary Haynes is really knowledgeable
Yeah,
and someone you should follow. So this is what came out of it. So AI and search engines. She discussed how AI and machine learning has revolutionized search, particularly through technologies like the transformer model, which has enabled more sophisticated search algorithms. Google's transition to AI first indexing has dramatically improved the relevancy and accuracy of search results. Some may argue that at the moment, but I thought was really interesting from this was that the level of detail she knew about actually how
yeah,
search engines fundamentally work and the mechanics and the technology behind it. Um, and then it went on to say focus on content quality over links. So Marie emphasized a shift in SEO strategy away from traditional link building towards building topical authority and reputation. She suggests that SEO should focus more on creating helpful, original, and insightful content that generally serves users better. Leveraging multimodal content. So she recommends incorporating images and video into content strategies, as AI models like Gemini are increasing capability of analyzing and understanding these formats, making more of them influential in search rankings. She also said preparing for industry changes. So she highlights the need for resilience and adaptability in the face of rapid changes in the SEO industry due to advances in AI. SEOs need to stay informed and be ready to shift their strategies as new technologies emerge. And finally, community and knowledge sharing. So she underscores the importance of community and knowledge sharing in the SEO industry,
yeah,
noting much as what is known about the SEO comes from collective experimental um, and discussions. So, yeah, just it's a good video, and obviously people should watch it, the full thing. But I think what's really interesting is just like, and something that I've definitely done is that being ready to be, she's talking about resilience as well. Like we have had to be quite resilient in the industry. There's been a lot of
yeah,
change, and also, but also be adaptable. So don't always just stick to the old sort of tactics because things have changed. Not meaning that backlinks are irrelevant now and should stop doing it at all. Just change the way it's done. Things like that. Just obviously Google is sending out signals in the way that they believe it should be done in terms of topical authority and EAT and stuff like that. So just consider that in your strategy, but be ready to adapt as well, especially with other search engines coming into play, social. Like Ray Sadiq was saying, just the importance of having that aligned search sort of approach and
yeah,
making sure that you're not just relying heavily on Google and you're just focusing solely on Google, because if Google somehow dropped overnight, what would you do?
yeah.
It's about the diversity of your sort of content and your audience, I guess. Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting video. I don't know you had a chance to look at it yet, or what you thought
I
on it.
haven't yet. I will definitely be watching that later today. Um, I I can't really add to that. She's hit all the points there. I think it's interesting. I think we're lucky within SEO. We do still have a very good community. I've been involved for 25 plus years. Right there at the beginning, there was a small group, and we would be discussing and helping each other out, and it was great. It's changed a little bit. but ultimately, I think it is still a good community, and people are up for helping other people out as well. Um, I think when it comes to websites, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that will be upset anytime backlinks are mentioned, and the option of not paying for them, not getting them. Um, but I will say, I think especially with AI, it comes down to have a look at those EAT guidelines. They are really good, and it just makes you think. So with a lot of clients that I work with, we go through a content audit, we go through a site audit, and then we look at, okay, well, what is this page here to do? Why is it here? How is it informing? How does it lead on to another page or another action? And I think the more people can look at their websites and think about an individual page, what is its purpose? Who is this for? Especially with how AI is working, AI overviews, especially from what I've seen there, it means that you'll have the opportunity of appearing in those results, and hopefully within the citations as well.
Yeah, and with less and less pages getting indexed these days, every single page on the website needs to have a purpose, as you say, and to be there for a reason.
Yeah,
So you just look at your content and just analyze it in that standpoint, like you say, and if this is actually going to benefit anyone, any of your users, and how, and making sure that call to action is clear. If it's not going to be helpful, then just get rid of it, because they,
yeah,
like I say, you've not got much room to play with anymore. And also, yeah, look at definitely using different assets like video and imagery is
yeah,
also really important, and get straight to the point. Cutting out any jargon. With these AI models that are going to scan through websites to find that answer, then they're not going to want to go through all loads of, and even the users now just want answers. They
yeah.
don't want to read all this fluff, and depends obviously on the content and the
Well, no,
context,
I
but
mean, I think you're right, and I think a lot of user journeys start with a question being answered, and then that engages with them, and they want more depth. And I always think that's where a lot of pages should be. So while you may answer a specific question up front, you can then use the rest of the page, link out to other page that further the topic, and that really is both good for search engines, AI, and us lowly human beings.
yeah, no, great. Well, yeah, sadly we only got through like one of the other stories, but hopefully we'll get you back on at some stage and discuss
Yeah,
more.
yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you, and yeah, so yeah, we'll wrap up for now. But yeah, thank you so much, David, for joining me on this episode,
It's been a
and
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
yeah, and hopefully have you back soon. And obviously, all your social details and everything will be in the description. So please go and follow David, because he has got some really great stuff he shares and has a lot of
Thank you.
knowledge, and well worth following. And yeah, and I'm sure I'll be sharing stuff on LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you, David, and yeah, see you soon. All bye.
That's great. Cheers.